And welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL. Today we got a full slate of updates to break down for you. This is the 111th episode of Hawks Latest presented by FanArt, so hopefully you guys have been enjoying the ride. We're going to get to right around 120 by the time the season starts, the regular season that is, which, is pretty soon. Atlanta's preseason is almost in the books. We've got one more left. And, while the spotlight has largely been on Trae Young and his whole contract situation and Kristaps Porzingis, bringing him in the blockbuster deal. And then that's, obviously been the major storyline of the offseason and really just the team's new look under general manager Anzi Saleh after his first offseason, and it was an incredible one. One of the most compelling stories this week came from a player that it wasn't necessarily expected to have a big role, especially with the Hawks, but just in general in the league this upcoming season. And he really impressed a whole lot of people in this last preseason game. That's right, we're talking about Jacob Toppin. He's going to be the main focus for the first segment, and we're going to kind of talk about him in the second segment of this episode. He had a stunning performance against the Miami Heat. He really kind of set the tempo for the Hawks in that game just a few days ago, and it may have cemented his case for a full-time roster spot in the near future. Today we're going to break down that game, analyze what Toppin brings to the Hawks, lineup, and why they might need a guy like him down the road. We're going to discuss how his success addresses a key weakness on this roster, because while it's been a good offseason, a very good offseason that, Atlanta's addressed all of their, most of their issues, there is still one underlying problem that may eventually, reinvent itself as the season progresses, and the Hawks, fighting to be at the top of the Eastern Conference could identify it. We're going to touch on Kristaps Porzingis, his contract situation. There's been several Hawks that have been due for an extension this summer, and I know Kristaps is a newcomer, but he could sign an extension soon, and we're going to talk about why that may not happen at all. And we're going to preview tonight's preseason finale against the Houston Rockets. The Hawks are back in action tonight. It's game day. I'm super excited. It's the last preseason game. It's been a fun preseason, but I'm ready for real basketball to start. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it and start with Atlanta returned to preseason action just a few nights ago. It was 3 nights ago at this point. At home against the Miami Heat. It was actually the very first home game of the season, if you will. It kind of went unexpected, honestly. They picked up their second straight win, a thrilling 119-118 overtime victory over the Heat. This matchup was more than just another tune-up game. It gave the Hawks a preview of a team that they're going to see several times this season. It's a division rival. We do not like the Miami Heat. They do not like us. Miami ran out much of their expected regular season rotation, obviously without Tyler Hero because he's down with that injury. That's going to keep him sidelined for a good portion of the beginning of the season. But the Hawks went in a different direction, and this is why I kind of said the outcome was a little unexpected, because Atlanta played no one after running their top 8 players the first 2 preseason games, which was kind of a surprise, honestly. They came out hot, and I guess they wanted to give fans just a really early preview of everyone. But in this third game, Coach Quinn Snyder decided to rest all of the key rotation guys. And this was the home opener, technically. Obviously the home opener is going to be October 22nd on opening night against the Toronto Raptors, but this was the Hawks fans' first look at the new team, and they wanted to see the new additions play. But they're going to tonight, and we'll get into all of that in a little bit. But some fans were a little disappointed because it wasn't announced until soon before, not long before tip-off. And so they were trying to see Trae and Porzingis and Jalen Johnson and the other new guys like Nikhil and Luke Kennard. But others weren't as disappointed, and I think this is a little more reasonable. I wasn't really disappointed because I was like, we've seen what we needed to see out of this starting group, and really just the top 8 guys. I think we know exactly how lethal they can be, but, some, got a chance to evaluate the younger, the hungrier players that really are trying to carve out a name for themselves in the NBA, potentially earn themselves a roster spot, especially a guy like Jacob Toppin. He completely took advantage of this opportunity. Toppin is on a two-way deal with the Atlanta Hawks right now. He's one of the three two-way guys alongside Keaton Wallace and Eli Njai. He actually started the game against the Heat alongside Keaton Wallace, so that's two of Atlanta's two-way guys that got the start a few nights ago. That's another player who's competing for a standard contract, and just so conveniently, the Atlanta Hawks have two open roster spots remaining, and they gave Keaton Wallace and Jacob Toppin some run. Both knew that this was an opportunity they could not waste. And Toppin, he absolutely delivered. In 42 minutes, the 6'8 forward posted 26 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists, while also adding 2 blocks and a steal, showcasing his all-around game. I mean, this is a forward. I know I asked him at Media Day, just how he goes about, just being such a force down low while being a wing, really, and how effective he is on the glass, because, I mean, he killed it in the summer league, averaged like 7 boards a game. At his size, that's very impressive. And in this game he picked up 9 rebounds. And when I asked him, I mean, he said that he's just a player that's always going to have hustle. It's the stuff you can't teach. And he showcased just that. He wasn't just active though; he was impactful. He played with confidence. He attacked closeout and showed real versatility on both ends. And when the game got tight, he elevated his play. Here's an interesting stat: 15 of his 26 points the other night came in the fourth quarter and overtime. So that is a clutch gene that you cannot you can't teach. It's rare to see from someone kind of fighting for a spot in the league, an official spot in the league. Coach Snyder clearly recognized the impact. I mean, I don't think any of us expected Jacob Toppin to play 42 minutes, but Coach left him on the floor for those extended minutes just because you couldn't really justify sending him to the bench for too long, just because of how impactful he was on both ends of the floor. And I mean, for Hawks fans, this wasn't at times. If you really kept up with the Hawks this summer, not just the offseason moves, but when the younger guys played in summer league, and it wasn't just the younger guys on the roster. I mean, it was at times the summer league. It can be hard to watch for someone who's not like a sicko, a basketball sicko. But I mean, if you watched Jacob Toppin and the Atlanta Hawks during summer league, you saw how impactful he was. During summer league, Toppin averaged over 15 points and 7 rebounds on strong efficiency before that hip injury cut his run short. But nonetheless, he showed why he's a little deserving of some recognition. And now fully healthy in preseason, he's showing that athleticism and his energy that once made him a standout at Kentucky, and it's translating to NBA level production. And Atlanta closes preseason tonight against the Houston Rockets, so all eyes are going to be on Toppin again. If he ends up turning in another strong showing, I don't expect him to have 26, 9-5, and 2-1 again, because that may be a little bit of an outlier game. But if he can showcase all the right stuff on both the offensive end and the defensive end, it's hard to imagine the Hawks, not at least considering converting his two-way deal into a standard contract. I've always said that this could be a scenario that we see with Keaton Wallace. I mean, I certainly think Keaton Wallace is someone who Atlanta really, really likes. And I honestly really like his game as well. I really like his potential as a combo guard in the NBA who can be impactful on the defensive level while being just a solid offensive player, good playmaker. But I mean, it's clear that Atlanta, I mean, they played him as when they were playing their full rotation in the first 2 games. Wallace was the 9th man. So if you're really thinking of having him be your 9th man heading into the regular season, this is a guy you're going to have to convert to a standard contract. Just considering if you're on a two-way contract, you can only play a certain amount of games with the main ball club before you have to go down to the G League for the rest of the season. So I wouldn't be surprised. And like I said, Atlanta has 2 open roster spots. If Keaton Wallace was one of those guys, and then, it leaves the door open for one more guy, whether that be Caleb Houston or Jacob Toppin. I mean, there's a lot of forwards they can choose from. And that kind of leads us into this next segment because we got to talk about why this performance matters in the grand scheme of things and really just beyond the box score. Even after one of the most aggressive off seasons in franchise history, trading for Kristaps Porzingis and signing Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Luke Kennard, sign and trade for Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but same difference. The Hawks still have one glaring issue, and it's not going to be the backup point guard thing that we've been talking about on this channel for some time, but it's depth at the wing. behind Jalen Johnson and Zachary Riza-Shea, the forwards in the rotation, that lineup thins out quickly, and we believe I believe in some of these guys that we can put behind them, but we don't necessarily know how that's going to translate on the floor if Atlanta's really thinking about contending. I mean, when we talk about some of the shooters they have off the bench in terms of wings, I mean, Vit Krejci. He's the most reliable of the bunch, I would say. He's probably the front runner for a direct backup three, just considering his organizational familiarity, and he shot 43% from deep last year. He's a very solid defender. And I mean, Caleb Houston, who's not even on a official deal, either as a standard contract or a two-way contract. Those are kind of like you can play, obviously, Nikhil at the three. You can play Dyson at the three. You can get a little creative, but just a big body wing. Atlanta doesn't really have that behind Jalen Johnson or Zachary Riza-Shea. I mean, neither of Krejci or Houston have too much of the defensive versatility or, athleticism to fully anchor the second unit if injuries were to hit. And this could be a situation, not to overreact, and I'm not even necessarily talking about Toppin specifically, but the archetype of Jacob Toppin would fit in beautifully here. And I'm not talking about someone that's going to be asked to command nightly minutes because, at this point, Atlanta's rotation is set, it's full. But rather to be that kind of reliable plug-in forward when you need him, someone who can bring some energy, some solid rebounding, hustling and transition scoring when needed. And, given the past injuries to Jalen Johnson, I mean, a safety net could prove to be very critical. Optionality has been a huge buzzword for General Manager Anzi Saleh in his first summer as the organization's top decision maker. And keeping a player like Jacob Toppin, who in his family has some NBA familiarity, keeping him on a standard contract, converting his two-way to a standard contract, it gives Atlanta flexibility and optionality, like I said, both short-term and long-term. If you're looking for an internal solution to a real significant depth issue that could be crucial towards the end of the season, if you're trying to make a push in the Eastern Conference, maybe to get all the way to the NBA Finals. I mean, a lot of people have brought up like they should go after a veteran in this, and they've brought up options on the trade market and the free agent market. Not a lot of free agents left, but I've obviously heard the names that fans have kind of brought up, and I like the idea of. People have mentioned like Royce O'Neal, maybe like a Haywood Highsmith. Both of those guys I think would kind of fit in that role nicely. But do you guys see the archetype that I'm trying to present here? Someone who can be like a 9th or 10th man in a rotation, but if not, just be a reliable, steady backup. And we may already have him on the roster, whether that's Toppin or whether that's Krejci, who can, kind of fit into that role in a little bit of a different way, or maybe a Caleb Houston that they decide to bring up. I don't know, but I'm sure. I hope you guys are kind of, picking down. I mean, putting down what I'm trying to explain to you guys, because this is something that could seriously benefit Atlanta down the road. So meanwhile, another major storyline developing in Atlanta involves newly acquired big man Kristaps Porzingis, who was the blockbuster addition of the offseason, and for good reason. I mean, he's an NBA All-Star, NBA champion, and despite his strong integration into the team system, no contract extension is imminent. And it shouldn't come as a surprise because we haven't seen it on the floor. Well, we have in preseason, but we haven't seen the long-term in a regular season how that production is going to look. And that's really just kind of what Atlanta could be waiting on. No contract extension imminent at all. It was officially reported by The Athletic. He sat down with one of their reporters. Both sides appear content to wait. And this comes as no surprise. Porzingis told The Athletic, quote, "I want to see how the year goes. I want to show I'm healthy and playing at a high level again." He also, the 7'3" center is set to earn $30 million next season, actually a little over $30 million, with the potential to sign an extension starting as high as $43 million, which, with a player with his health concerns and, at the age he's at, I certainly wouldn't be, too happy signing him to an extension for that dollar for for that long. For now, though, both Porzingis and the Hawks are keeping their options open. Optionality, a move that makes sense given the number of major decisions looming this next summer, including possible extensions for guys like Dyson Daniels and Trae Young. I mean, those have been major storylines of the offseason. Neither have been extended yet. I'm a little surprised that the Dyson deal hasn't gotten done, but there's always the option that Atlanta does what they did with Jalen Johnson last summer and then waits pretty much the entire offseason. And then the day before opening night, signing Dyson to that extension. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case there. I certainly don't want to let Dyson hit restricted free agency next summer just because, teams will be offering him an absolute bag. And Atlanta would obviously match it, but it could hurt their cap sheets. I mean, teams are going to have a lot of cap space this upcoming summer not this upcoming. I mean, we got a long time. We got another year before it. But, I mean, teams could offer him like $40 million plus, and Atlanta wouldn't just want to lose Dyson for nothing. So they would match it. So I don't want him to hit restricted free agency at all. I want them to go ahead and get that extension done. That's been a huge storyline. And also the Trae Young thing where, I mean, it's clear Atlanta's not going to extend him this offseason. They want to see him kind of put the results together on the floor. And I think that's reasonable. I think that's a solid idea from both Trae Young and the organization. But I believe in him in this roster, so I think that both Dyson and Trae will get solved at some point. I think Dyson's will get solved a little bit sooner, and then we'll see what happens with Trae. But Porzingis, I mean, this is really no surprise. He's someone who Atlanta was really comfortable bringing him in just because of his 1-year deal. I mean, if this was like a $30 million for the next 2 or 3 years, Atlanta doesn't do that trade. I can almost guarantee it. They really wanted Kristaps Porzingis, but I don't think they wanted him that bad to where they would have brought him in on that cap sheet for too long. Just the 1-year deals to him and both Luke Kennard, just to see what Trae and the rest of the guys can do with this elite spacing. It's a strategic move. Porzingis looked sharp in the preseason after playing with Latvia after Eurobasket. I mean, and he's clearly optimistic about his fit in Atlanta. It's been nothing but positivity since he's been here, really. I mean, the organization seems equally patient, preferring to see how this new core meshes before making long-term financial commitments. And even then, even if it performs well, I mean, they could obviously just decide not to extend him at all. This literally could just be a 1-year rental of Kristaps Porzingis, and then they move forward with Onyeka Okongwu or whoever else as their starting center for the future. I know they believe in Onyeka, and I mean he's a part of that core 5. So now let's go ahead and break down the game today. The Atlanta Hawks play tonight, and it's actually their final preseason game, and it's against the Houston Rockets, a team that they actually faced at the very start of preseason. That was the first game the Atlanta Hawks played. The very first time we got to see the new team hit the floor, and now it's their last preseason game before the regular season begins on opening night, October 22nd against the Toronto Raptors. This will be Atlanta's second home preseason game, and this one, at least for us, is expected to feel a lot more like a regular season matchup. According to head coach Quinn Snyder, just like I think 2 days ago, the Hawks feel like they have more than enough time between today and opening night to rest the guys and just be with fresh legs on opening night to play to their best. So they plan to play their starters tonight and pretty much the rest of the guys. Think of this game kind of as a dress rehearsal. This is the closest thing we're going to see until we see the real thing on opening night. While we won't probably see, the exact same rotation. It's probably going to be a little different. Probably going to try to get some of those guys in, like a Jacob Toppin or a Keaton Wallace, who actually, I can't even say Keaton Wallace because he's been the team's 9th man in all of these preseason games. But it should be pretty close to what we see just in the regular season. I think it's going to be pretty much like a dress rehearsal. Don't quote me on that if in the second quarter we see Caleb Houston and N'Faly Dante. But basically, this game could give fans a true glimpse at what Snyder's rotation might look like when the regular season begins very soon. As for the Houston Rockets, though, they're going in the complete opposite direction. So kind of think of this like the Hawks Heat game the other day, just kind of inverted because when the Hawks played the Heat, the Hawks sat all their guys. The Heat played all their guys. This is going to be a little different. The Hawks are going to play all their guys tonight, and then the Rockets are going to rest all of their guys. And what's really interesting, out of their 4 preseason games, Kevin Durant, who was traded to the Houston Rockets this past offseason, and it was a deal for Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks, and I think one first-round pick. Actually, was there more first-round picks involved in that? I think off the top of my head, it was just that one. But What's interesting about Kevin Durant is that he will have only suited up in 2 preseason games for the Houston Rockets, and they so conveniently were the ones where they didn't play the Atlanta Hawks. The Rockets started their preseason with the Atlanta Hawks. They're closing their preseason with the Atlanta Hawks, and Durant just so conveniently doesn't play in either of those. Is he ducking the smoke? Is he ducking Dyson Daniels? Is he ducking Zachary Rizachet? I don't know. It's real convenient that he's not playing in either the first game or the last game, which both happen to be against the same opponent. I mean, can you blame him though? We've got some really good defenders on this team. Is he ducking Jalen Johnson? I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't want to go against this young physical team if I was one of the greatest scorers of all time, trying to protect a legacy. I'm kidding. Kevin Durant's one of my favorite players ever, but I'm a Hawks fan. At the end of the day, I'm someone who will always take the Hawks over anyone else. But basically, tip-off is scheduled for 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time at State Farm Arena tonight. It's going to be a fun one. Arena should definitely be a little more packed than it was on Monday. There was no one there, and that's not even me exaggerating. Like, this was like one of the most empty Hawks games that I had seen. But I mean, it makes sense. It was like at 6 p.m. on a Monday with the Falcons-Bills game going on next door at the exact same time, and it was a preseason game. So I can see why there wasn't a whole lot of people. But this one, it's a Thursday night game, 7:30 against the Houston Rockets, who while they won't be playing their starters, they're still a team that will generate a lot of buzz, and so it'll definitely be it'll feel like a regular season game pretty much. It's the final tune-up before the real action begins on October 22nd, and for guys like Jacob Toppin, Keaton Wallace, and even guys like Onyeka Okongwu, I mean, this is the last opportunity to build some momentum heading into the regular season, and it's going to be an important regular season. So to wrap things up, this has been one of the more intriguing stretches of the Hawks preseason. Or in the offseason in general, if you can even still call it the offseason. Jacob Toppin's real breakout game showed that this roster still has untapped depth that could pay dividends towards the end of the season, even mid-season if a player were to go down with an injury, which is always a possibility with this Atlanta Hawks team. Kristaps Porzingis' situation reminds us that patience can be strategic, and tonight's matchup against the Houston Rockets will serve as the final test before the season tips off for real, and I am super excited for it to go ahead and get started because I'm going to be covering it all on this channel. If Toppin can replicate his performance from the Miami game, don't be surprised if he earns one of those last standard roster spots. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Hawks Latest. If you enjoyed today's breakdown, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single update here on the channel. We're going to be putting out videos every single day, keeping you guys informed on the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. But let me know down below. I mean, what are your expectations for the game tonight? What do you think about Jacob Toppin's performance, and what do you think about all the contract situations? Would you want to re-sign Kristaps Porzingis for top dollar this next offseason, all while having Trae Young, Dyson Daniels, and the rest of the guys on the payroll? Could be an interesting situation, but let me know your thoughts down below. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Once again, I'm Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and I'll see you guys next time.